All right, LS swap 88 to 94 wiring as fast as you can possibly do it. We'll start with wiring our new ECM relay. So we're going to go up here off the junction block. We're going to pull a wire to terminal 80 or terminal 30 of our relay. Get my cheat sheet over here. Okay, so we're fusing that wire, running to terminal 30 of our relay box. We've got some relays down here. These turn on the ECM. From terminal 86 of that same relay, we're going to come up again with another wire. We're going to go into this harness. We're going to look for these pink black wires in this harness. We're going to splice into one of those. That is a key-on power source that comes off of the fuse inside the dash labeled ECM. We're going to go into the glove box and unplug the ECM, the old truck ECM, okay? So that frees up that entire circuit for us to use. Now we're going to do the same thing here for our fuel pump relay. We're going to pull off the junction block with a wire that's going to go, again, it's going to go to terminal 30 of your relay for your fuel pump. That's going to provide power, okay? Now that relay is switched on and off by the new ECM, okay? But coming off of that relay, terminal 87, you're going to pull a wire back up here. You're going to connect it to this fuel pump relay at this green and white wire here. I've cut it. You don't have to cut it. You could splice into it because your ECM is disconnected. And what this does is it bypasses the old ECM signal here, and it allows that ECM to turn this fuel pump relay on. So basically you've got two relays being turned on. One's being turned on by the other one, so there's no load issues here. This keeps everything intact. This turns on, power goes out through this fuse right here, down this wire, may go through your oil pressure sender if it's a later model. On the earlier models, it goes straight to the tank. That gets your truck running. You've now got the ECM on, you've got the fuel pump running. Now, to make it run correctly, you do need to wire in a vehicle speed sensor. The vehicle speed sensor, you'll find it at the tail shaft of the transmission, whether it's a standard or an automatic, or you'll find it on the transfer case if it's four-wheel drive. The wire colors there, you'll find a yellow and purple wire going into that sensor. The yellow is your high signal and the purple is your low signal. This is important because it is an AC generator. Coming off of your new wire harness, I don't know what colors you're going to have. Depends on if it's a standalone harness that you've bought or if it's the original factory harness. If it's the original factory harness that you're reusing, there's a good chance that this twisted pair here is what you're looking at, okay? This is what will come out of the ECMs on most of them. This is from a 2001. You see it's a purple and a green wire. Okay, the purple wire with the white stripe is the high signal, and the green with the black stripe is the low signal. You need to match those up. So in this case, the purple white will go to the yellow wire of the original truck, and the light green black wire here will go to the low signal, which would be the purple wire. A little bit confusing because we've got two purples, but they don't go together. On standalone harnesses, they tend to use green and purple as well, and they actually match up exactly the same as this. So it's the same deal. I wish I could show you exactly where they are. I think they're on the connector on the bottom because I believe they're on the red connector. But you'll see them. They always come out in a twisted pair on the original ECM. That'll get your vehicle speed sensor working. For your gauges, being that this is an 89, it only has two gauges that matter. The voltage will work automatically as long as you keep the original alternator wire intact. And I'm talking about the original, the big wire, the big fat red one. The voltage regulator wiring can come off of the new ECM. That's no problem. That doesn't affect your gauges. So as long as you're pulling this, which you have to if you're using this method, because that's what powers that junction block, is that relay, is that alternator wire. So that gets your voltage gauge working. Your coolant temp what you're going to do is you're going to take the sender from your original engine and you're going to get an adapter to the LS block, which is simply a NPT to metric adapter. And you're going to keep the original wiring from your original harness and you're going to plug it in. You're going to do the same thing with the oil pressure sender. And it doesn't matter if you have the large brass colored can or if you have the later model tall skinny one, you know, with the 4 or 5 wires going in. Doesn't matter. You just keep everything intact, plug it right back in. Your original factory harness should be left intact until you're completely finished, because you also need to pull out of it, I believe, 2 ground wires. They initially went to the thermostat housing. No, those ground that harness, so they're really important. Otherwise, a lot of things like, well, the gauges won't work, I believe. You'll probably want to pull the AC wires out of that harness and run them whichever side, if you're going to run a compressor, whichever side you plan to do that to. And then, of course, you'll want to run your alternator, your heavy alternator wire. Now, I did go ahead and pull my voltage regulator wiring out of the original harness, and I've just tucked it away in here. And I would recommend keeping that unless you're certain that you're done. I would keep that, because if you wanted to switch to a different injection system, or if you wanted to switch over to a carburetor, you keep that regulator wire intact, and you can just plug it into this alternator. You'll need a new plug, but you'll plug it into this alternator. You'll still have voltage regulation. And the last thing that we did here, of course, was the check engine light. Now, we don't have a torque converter clutch, so I'm not even going to get into that. If you have torque converter clutch, or if you have electric kickdown, like in one of the earlier automatic transmissions, I don't have any information about those. This is a standard. All right, but for the check engine light to work, we're going to pull the wire out of our ECM and just pull it into the cab. If you have an automatic, you can punch through at the cruise control. If you have a standard, you're going to want to come down here, because this is all blocked off back there. You can't get behind here because the clutch pedal bracket is in the way. But you're going to go into the cab with that single wire, and you come over here, and right underneath the dash, you see that brown wire going to the LDL, okay? Now, the professional way to do that, of course, would be to run that and splice it, but there is a brown and yellow wire back there. You splice your new ECM's check engine signal to that, and you'll have a check engine light working. Okay, but make sure when you do that you do have the original ECM disconnected, or that you've gone to the ECM itself and you'll find a brown white wire and you need to snip that. That is the check engine light from the original. I don't know why you'd want to run that ECM on. It doesn't do anything, but for some reason you need it on, then make sure you cut that brown white wire so you're not feeding 2 signals to the check engine light. I'm sure that could cause some problems. Anyway, that's it. That covers all the electrical connections you have to make to get it running, to get those 3 gauges working. I don't have tax signal off of here because I don't have a tachometer, but that's in a future build. We're going to be working on a later model truck that has everything, so we'll have to deal with torque converter lockup, and we'll have to deal with the tachometer. So we'll make hopefully a more in-depth video when we build that truck. Anyway, that's all there is to do on this one. How many connections did we make? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total connections, not including the ones we pulled off. We still have all the original 5/7 wiring intact back here, and it's just sitting there dormant in case, for whatever reason, somebody wanted to put a 5/7 back in here. It could be done. That's the best way to wire this. The best practice is get your engine in. Get your standalone harness, or the harness you've made, hooked up and wired, and you know where you're going to pull everything. Wherever you're going to put, if you're planning to put a whole new fuse box, then this doesn't apply to you at all. This is the fast way to do it, okay? So you need 2 relays. You need one to turn this on, and one for this to fire for the fuel pump. And then you need this, and that's it. And if you've got that far, then you wire them in, you turn it on, it'll start. Plug in your VSS so that you have proper idle speed when you're rolling down the highway. and then plug in your gauges so you can see your temperature and pressures. All right, that's it.